we're getting right into the architecture of what makes an organization, truly successful. And we're going straight to this foundational tension, the friction between these perfectly optimized systems and, well, us, the people.
The messy human part.
Exactly. It always makes me think of that Kurt Vonnegut line about how the world would be an engineer's paradise if it weren't for people.
And that tension is everything in the modern workplace. I mean, institutional stagnation isn't just some failure of imagination.
Right.
It's the direct result of failing to rethink. The ability to unlearn old habits it's become a core survival skill for companies.
Exactly. And for you listening, this really means we need to unpack the difference between a high-performance culture, which sounds great,
Right.
and a true learning culture.
Okay, yeah. So a learning culture, its main value is growth. Rethinking things is just normal. It's routine.
You're encouraged to doubt things.
You're encouraged to doubt, to admit you don't know everything. Now contrast that with a performance culture where it's all about outcomes, results.
Which almost always leads to a fear of failure.
A highly punitive attitude toward failure, yes.
And that fear, that's when you see what scientists call self-limiting behavior, right? You suppress the idea.
You keep quiet. You don't want to be the one to stick your neck out.
Especially in a place with a really strict hierarchy.
It even shows up in the language. Learning cultures talk about finding better practices.
Implying it's a journey.
Exactly. The current way is just the best so far. But a performance culture gets stuck on best practices, as if it's the final answer. And that's where you stagnate.
That distinction alone is huge. So if the culture is the environment, let's talk about what's going on inside our heads. Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so it really boils down to two opposing cycles. The one you want is the rethinking cycle. It starts with intellectual humility, knowing you might be wrong. That creates doubt, which fuels curiosity and then leads to discovery. You update your beliefs.
And the other cycle.
The overconfidence cycle. That's driven by pride, conviction.
The know-it-all cycle.
The know-it-all cycle. Perfect. It just triggers confirmation bias, and your thinking sort of seizes up and freezes.
That makes me think of the huge cultural shift at Microsoft. For years, they were famous for being a company of know-it-alls.
That stack ranking system was brutal.
Oh, it was toxic. But under new leadership, they deliberately shifted to a culture of learn-it-alls. It was all about adaptability, modeled right from the top.
And that kind of transformation, it hinges completely on one thing. Psychological safety.
The belief that you won't get punished for taking a risk.
For asking a dumb question, for admitting a mistake. Yeah. It's the belief that the environment is safe for that kind of interpersonal risk-taking.
And this creates that amazing paradox that the researcher Amy Edmondson found. She discovered that high-performing hospital teams, they actually reported more errors than the low-performing teams.
Right, which sounds completely backwards.
Yeah, it does. But it wasn't because they were making more mistakes. It was because they felt safe enough to talk about every little error.
So they could fix the system before a small error became a disaster. They were learning.
They were learning. So how do you build that?
Well, you have to aim for what's called the learning zone. That needs high psychological safety and high accountability. The two have to go together.
You avoid the anxiety zone.
You have to avoid the anxiety zone. That's low safety, high accountability. It's where people are terrified, they stay quiet, and preventable failures just happen over and over.
So when companies actually make this shift, what does it mean for the bottom line?
The ROI is huge. You see organizations with a real learning culture getting up to 46% higher revenue per employee. Turnover drops dramatically.
So what's the big takeaway here?
That success is systemic. It's not purely personal. Even when one person makes a mistake, the most successful places focus on fixing the system, not just blaming the individual.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to really mull over, especially when you see failure in your own professional life. Think about the just culture substitution test. It asks a really simple question. In the exact same situation, with the same tools and pressures, would another competent person have made the same mistake?
Yeah.
Because if the answer is yes, if the fault is in the system, is punishing the individual truly productive? Or is it just a counterproductive act that papers over the real flaw? That's something worth thinking about.